Breathe. Breathe. I don't have the image up here, but on the e-blast I had breathe, feel. What else was it? Who knows? Who looked at it? Do you remember?
Breathe.
Yeah, this is breathe. Breathe, feel. I think it was breathe, feel, act, and no. Breathe, feel, know, and smile. Breathe, feel, know, and smile. That's what I had on the e-blast. I want to begin by sharing. Isn't this a gorgeous image? Oh,
Yeah.
You might be seeing that from time to time. I want to begin by sharing with you a story I saw on Facebook that was posted by a woman by the name of Katie Sawyer. She's just adorable. I should have saved that picture and shown it to you. But she works at a liquor store, and she does the drive-through window. I always think from Indiana we would have, there was at least one liquor store in town in Richmond that had a drive-through window. I always thought that was the most ludicrous thing I ever heard, but go figure.
Yeah.
I don't know if they still do that, but maybe they do where Katie lives. So anyway, she said, I'm not going to read you this whole story, but she said about 10 years ago that she had this older man who would come through every other day, and he would want his six-pack. I think she called it an old natty. Ever heard of that?
No.
Never. Anyway, wherever they are, he would come through every other day, just kind of curmudgeon-y. Now, Katie says that she likes for everybody to be her homie. She's just outgoing and friendly and just shares love all over the place. She's one of those people that apparently you can't walk down the street and not see her smiling. So she wants everybody to be her friend. And this guy would come through every other day and just not crack a smile. He would ask for his six-pack of beer and go on his way. There was nothing that she could do that would engage him in anything. But she kept trying. She never gave up. And then she would start asking him if he wanted to hear the daily joke that one of her customers would share with her. And he would just tolerate her telling him these jokes, trying to get him to crack a smile. No smile, no engagement, nothing. But she kept it up. And then after about 2 years, she says, one day as he came through the line, asking for his every other day six-pack of beer, he threw something at her. No, he didn't throw it at her. Let me say that more gently. He tossed something to her. Isn't that different than throwing something at you? and when she looked at it, and it was a T-shirt that said "Beer Angel." Isn't that awesome? And so the relationship started to open up a little bit more and a little bit more. Her daughter's name is Violet. And finally, when he got to the point where he started to speak with her, one day he came to the point where he was on oxygen. And he gave her a $20 bill and asked her if she and Purple would go to the grocery store for him. So he didn't call Violet Violet, he called Violet Purple, which I think is just adorable. And if she could help him by going to the grocery store, because he couldn't get to the grocery store anymore. And so the relationship expanded even more. And then he invited her in because she offered to cut his hair. And so over time, this relationship became more personal. And it just blessed her so much, and it blessed him. And then the gentleman passed away, and she went to his graveside funeral. It was attended by a few family and friends, and she said, I went, but I stayed over at the side because I was just sobbing and I didn't want to make a fool of myself. And after the service was over, one of the family members came over and said to her, you must be Katie. He talked about you all the time. We never know what kind of a difference we make in the world. She was persistent. She was in a position where she could be persistent. She didn't have to be in a hurry. She just had to show up and be who she was and do her job. We never know. And so we show up in life with the willingness to just breathe. Breathe and be willing to feel whatever emotion is going on inside of us. If it's not an emotion that feels necessarily good, don't be in a rush to discard it, to push it away. Just be with it and ask it, why are you here right now? What is it that you're wanting me to know? What is it that you are wanting me to discover? Be in dialogue with yourself. And from that place we grow. And from that place we know. And then from that place we go to that place that I go to when I'm doing my heart math practices of coherence and heart-focused breathing, just that holy smile that just very naturally comes across my being, and I can feel it in every part of who I am. Of coming into the present moment with whatever is going on around us. Now, I know when, in the case of an emergency or in extreme distress, it can be not as easy to go to that place. But if we have been doing our practice, that even in those moments of extreme sadness and hardship, we still have that base. We still have that platform that is not very far away. Even if we can just take a breath enough in that gap between whatever is going on, we can find the Holy Presence. We may not know it, but it's always there. It never, ever goes away. From Charles Fillmore, co-founder of Unity, there is no scarcity of the air you breathe. But if you close your lungs and refuse to breathe, you will not get it and may suffocate for lack of air. There is an all-sufficiency of all things, just as there is an all-sufficiency of air. The only lack is our own lack of appropriation. The only lack is our own lack of awareness, of stepping into that moment, of stepping into that realization and coming back into that memory of who we are. That we are never alone, that we are always connected, that God truly is our source, and that there is only one presence and one power, God the good, the allness of good. We just breathe into that present moment. What is mine to know right now? What is mine to do in this moment? Where can I show up in the world being in a place where I can grow in my own spiritual evolution and assist others at the same time? Eckhart Tolle in The Power of Now shares when he was at Cambridge, and I think you said in the late 60s, early 70s, around campus, he would see a gentleman in a wheelchair. He was always surrounded by 3 or 4 or so of his students. He was never alone. He seemed like he always had someone with him. And he would see him in the cafeteria. He would see him on campus. And he didn't know who he was, but he was very much aware of this person in this wheelchair. And so he asked a friend one day, "Do you know who this is?" He goes, "Oh yeah, that's Stephen Hawking. And he has ALS. And he's a professor here. And Eckhart Tolle became aware of Stephen Hawking and the man that he was in his very being, in his very soul. And that was many years. That was early into his diagnosis. And as we know, he lived for many more years with a condition that is usually fatal much earlier. But with the consciousness of a man like Stephen Hawking, who knew the inner depths of the working of the universe. I don't know what his spiritual practices were. But you know, the universe is not about religion. It's about understanding the laws of manifestation. It's about understanding the laws of alignment. And Eckhart says that a number of years later, when buying a newspaper, I was amazed to see him on the front page of a popular international news magazine. Not only was he still alive, but he had by then become the world's most famous theoretical physicist. Stephen Hawking. There was a beautiful line in the article that confirmed what I had sensed when I had looked into his eyes many years earlier. Commenting upon his life, he said, now with the help of his voice synthesizer, he said, "Who could have wished for more? Who could have wished for more?" Stephen Hawking's words. I can only imagine what it was like. I've known people with ALS, and perhaps you have too. But Eckhart Tolle, in his teachings of being in the present moment, of being in awareness, of living mindfully, years before Eckhart even had his awakening, of being able to see that presence in the eyes of Stephen Hawking. Human beings are amazing. We are quite something. And so just because I couldn't help it, you've seen this before, but I'm going to play it again because I love it and I hope you do too. We got to live together. We got to live together. We got to live with ourselves first. And then we get to live together in one mind, with one heart, with an awareness, with a mindfulness of showing up with a smile. First for, I got to always bring it back. We got to have it in here before we can have it out here. That is probably, of all the Playing for Change videos, that I think that's still one of my favorite ones. We gotta live together. With joy, with understanding, with willingness. For from Eckhart Tolle, the joy of being, which is the only true happiness, cannot come to you through any form, possession, achievement, person, or event, through anything that happens. That joy cannot come to you ever. It emanates from the formless dimension within you, from consciousness itself, and thus is one with who you are. You are amazing, you are beautiful, and we show up for ourselves with love and for all of the world. And so it is.
Amen.